48. Indictment and Community. Our reading of Scripture is so consistently pietistic that we consistently miss the full meaning of a passage, in particular its social and legal aspects. An example of this is Hosea chapter 4, verses 1 to 5. Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel, for the Lord hath a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land. By swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood toucheth blood. Therefore shall the land mourn, and every one that dwelleth therein shall languish, with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven. Yea, the fishes of the sea also shall be taken away. Yet let no man strive nor approve another, for thy people are as they that strive with the priest. Therefore shalt thou fall in the day, and the prophet also shall fall with thee in the night, and I will destroy thy mother. The word controversy in verse 1 is used in the sense common in English at the time of the translation of the King James Version, that is, a lawsuit. This same usage of controversy appears in the U.S. Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, Paragraph 1. This meaning, that is, civil actions or suits, is still common to law. The Berkeley version translates controversy as charge, as does Moffat. Such translations do convey a little better the meaning of the original Hebrew in this context. Similar usage appears in Hosea chapter 12 verse 2, Micah chapter 6 verse 2, and Isaiah chapter 34 verse 8. Our problem today is that words too often are taken at their minimal meaning, and this is true of controversy. This should not surprise us. Cheap people cheapen words as well as almost all else they handle. Modern versions commonly cheapen words by their translation, and words like atonement, reconciliation, imputation, justification, and controversy are reduced in meaning. Wherever there is a juridical reference, and the Bible is set in a juridical framework, modern man reduces the meaning to a non-juridical one. But not only is controversy a legal term, but grace also is one. God's grace is the sovereign mercy of the judge of all creation, who provides a satisfaction to his justice and himself fulfills the requirements of the law in the person of God the Son, incarnated as Jesus Christ, in order to express his mercy and re-establish a covenant people under his law. The word controversy thus appears in the context of God's law, his covenant people, and their departure from his law and contempt for his mercy. In this judicial suit, God is both plaintiff and judge. He indicts Israel because there is no truth, love, nor knowledge of God in the land. Blood toucheth blood, or murder is added to murder, and justice is not done. Therefore shall the land mourn, because of the famine of judgment. In such an evil time God's counsel is, let no man strive nor approve another, for it is too late for warnings, let judgment take its course. The reason is that thy people are as they that strive with the priest. This has reference to the refusal of people to pay attention to the law of God as taught by the priests, and refers specifically to Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 12 to 13. And the man that will do presumptuously, and will not hearken unto the priest that standeth to minister there before the Lord thy God, or unto the judge, even that man shall die, and thou shalt put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and fear, and do no more presumptuously. A presumptuous people is not to be reproved. It is marked for destruction. Its false priests and prophets and its mother, the nation, will be destroyed. The absence of any knowledge of God in the land means the ignorance of God's law. As John Mauchline noted, that is indeed meant, and also something more, that is to say, the disregard of God's law and the refusal to honour the obligations of it, an attitude of wilful neglect. It should be noted first that God's controversy against Israel is a total charge, criminal and civil. Israel is charged with a breach of the covenant, that is, a lack of regard for God's law and person, and also with particular breaches of the covenant law. We violate the covenant when we neglect the covenant law and are without truth and love. Before there is a specific breach of the covenant law, there is a prior disregard for the covenant and the covenant God. But Israel had gone further. It had been guilty of false swearing, lying or bearing false witness, theft, adultery and murder. The whole of the second table of the law had been flagrantly violated. Second, the violations of God's law have destroyed Israel as a community. Where the violations enumerated exist, there is neither community, family, nor religious life of any tenable sort possible. As a result, the state of the nation is depicted to Hosea and in his own private life as comparable to marriage to a whore. Such a marriage is no marriage at all, but a continuous hell and an agony of suffering and hurt. The violation of God's covenant is comparable to adultery, and it must be seen as equally repulsive and requiring a divorce and judgment. Moreover, the adulterous nation can have no peace within itself. Its denial of God's law is adultery. It is a breach of community in favour of lawlessness and moral anarchism. The results will be mourning and alienation from the earth and its bounty, for God will use the natural world to curse an apostate people. Third, the consequence is destruction, as Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 declares. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. The ground for destruction is forgetting the law of God. God in turn forgets their children, for they are not his. Because they reject the knowledge of God's law, God rejects parents and children alike and gives them over to destruction. They shall no more be a priestly people unto God. Their destruction is their own doing, brought about by their faithlessness and their neglect of God's law. Fourth, another consequence is shame. Hosea chapter 4 verse 7 declares, As they were increased, so they sinned against me. Therefore will I change their glory into shame. Berkeley version. The more they multiplied, the more they sinned against me. I will turn their glory into shame. To be shamed means to be put to confusion, confounded, and thereby isolated. Shame is an isolating emotion. Adam and Eve, in their sin and shame, hid themselves from God. Genesis chapter 3 verse 8. Shame isolates man from his fellow men also, and shame turns a man's vision away from the present and future into the past. Shame leads to endless self-recrimination and self-justification, to futile attempts to relive the past. Shame is a consequence of lawlessness, and God therein turns man from the glory to which man is called by his creation and by his grace into an inwardly sick self-torturing bundle of self-hatred and self-disgust. Shame is an aspect of hell and a result of lawlessness. Over and over again, the Bible not only states God's law, but also God's indictment against the lawless. Isaiah begins with a bill of indictment against Judah and Jerusalem. The message of all the prophets is related to the law, and their words are indictments against all the nations for their violations of God's law. The prophets assert the certainty of judgment from the hands of the supreme judge of the universe, God himself. An quote-unquote underground writer in communist Russia has written in our time of that inexorable judgment. The court is in session. It is in session throughout the world. All of us, however many we may be, are being daily, nightly tried and questioned. This is called history. The consequence of sin is the loss of community with God and man, and the indictment and judgment of God. Moreover, it means also a loss of true knowledge. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 as well as chapter 4 verse 1 make clear that knowledge, as used by the Lord, means knowledge of the law of thy God. However, it is not without significance that knowledge is used there in a generalized sense, because the heart of valid knowledge is an understanding of God's law. Solomon declares, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7. The fear of the Lord means fear of transgressing his covenant law, and Proverbs is a commentary on the law. Knowledge, wisdom, learning, and instruction are all in terms of the law of God. They are not abstract concepts as with humanism, but specific and concrete, having reference to the law of God. To apply now the significance of these things and to see their implications, let us examine a specific situation. Before beginning this paragraph, I was interrupted by a young man and his serious problem. He travelled from the Atlantic area to California to work for a prominent, quote-unquote, Christian organization. In 13 weeks of work, he has been paid for only 5 weeks. The organization just raised $102,000 to satisfy all outstanding debts, $90,000. But he and others are still unpaid. Money raised to provide for specific projects has been used for unknown items. One other employee, until recently a nightclub performer, observed that he had been treated with more honesty and respect by the ungodly employers of his previous work. Pages would be required to cite the specific examples of lies, breaches of contract, misrepresentation, and much, much more that this prominent, quote-unquote, evangelical organization is guilty of. This situation is routine and commonplace in antinomian pseudo-Christianity. As a result, such religion is anathema even to the ungodly. It is productive of savage dissension under the sugar-coated pietism, and there is less community there than even in the ugly, narcotics-ridden world of secular humanism. It lacks all sense of true community, and it is without knowledge. Its idea of knowing the Lord is an emotional binge. Such a world, being antinomian, is also, by necessity, anti-community, or no valid community in any but an artificial, hypocritical sense is possible apart from God's law. To observe God's law means to live in community. To be an antinomian is to be under indictment.